The noise of the tennis ball hitting strings is kind of like, I'm trying to think. That's a good question.
On the docket tonight, we have Alisa Chase, who is the owner and founder of Swing City Racket Sports down in Maple Grove, Minnesota. It's a retail store down there. They do tennis stringing, sell rackets, pickleball, paddles, the whole shebang. So I'm super, super intrigued to get into in conversation with her about business operations, but then also tennis and pickleball and racket sports, and just to see what her outlook on everything is. We will resume when she comes in. No David. He has practiced tonight with his team, so we are doing this one solo, but I am so pumped about this one, so we will resume when she comes in. We welcome Alisa Chase, who is the owner and founder of Swing City Racket Sports down in Maple Grove, Minnesota. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem at all. And the first question that I kind of have for you is, how did you get into, the racket sport world?
So our family moved here from Dallas 8 years ago for my husband's job. I was a stay-at-home mom with 3 daughters. We have Allison, who is 25, Ashley, who's 21, and Livy, who is 19. And they are all out of the house now. So I gifted my husband a lesson package at Lifetime Fitness in St. Louis Park. And it was for 4 lessons and a racket. And he kind of fell in love with it. He was hooked. It was in the middle of winter, and we were looking for something to do in the cold and to meet people. And he was just hooked, and I was hooked on watching it. And then I was hooked on playing it because I eventually started playing tennis as well. We had not played any tennis earlier in our lives except for like just hitting a ball around a park court. And then our daughter and son-in-law started playing pickleball. And so, we just kind of fell in love with racket sports. It keeps us active and involved in the community. Our tennis community has become our family here. So, yeah.
What you would say has kind of kept you with the sport is the community piece, or would you attribute another thing to keeping you in the sport?
Most definitely our community. Yeah. We love our community here, and we have family that is not in the state, so they've kind of become our support system and our family, and we just really appreciate it. And we realized that there was a gap in the equipment industry and retail stores, and so we just decided to open a store, and it was kind of becoming our passion project. So
When did you initially kind of have that thought or that inkling of, hey, maybe there's a market here where we can open up a shop, in Minnesota and have this be successful? When was that kind of first thought?
So let me kind of tell you the genesis of Swing City Racket Sports. My husband was kind of joking with his buddies. They went to play a friendly match, and my husband has been in sales for his career, and he took this big like all-star wrestling belt that he had for his sales team, and he took it to this friendly match and was joking around with his buddies and saying, "Hey, if you can beat us, you can have this belt." Well, all these people that were playing on the courts around him were curious about what was going on. And so, as good friends do, he went home that night and sent out an email to all their buddies because he and his partner had won and beat their buddies. And he sent the email out and said, "If you want this belt, come and get it." And so by the morning, he had 25 people lined up in the queue to try and get this belt from them. So that's kind of the genesis of Swing City. But from that, we started organizing some tournaments. We had like this belt championship series to win the belt, and realizing that it was hard because if you lost at the top of the queue, you would go back down to the bottom of the queue. And so it was hard to win your way back up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to start running tournaments. And our first year that we ran a tournament was in August of 22.
Okay.
With support of Lifetime and other sponsors, we ran a prize tournament, and it was a huge success. Everybody loved it. They all wanted more.
And that was for a tennis tournament or a pickleball tournament?
A tennis tournament,
Okay.
yes. So all of this started with tennis. So,
Okay.
and then we ran it again in April of 23. It was again a huge success. We had an open division, which was highly competitive. And then last year, we ended up running a big prize tournament at Oak Ridge Country Club. It was a $15,000 prize purse, and we had all these D1 athletes come and play. It was so much fun. And it was before then, maybe about 6 months before then, we started like thinking, maybe we should try to dip our toes into the retail aspect of this business. We realized that there was a gap in the market up in Maple Grove.
I pay $1,000 a month for Wi-Fi and can't even get a clean signal for the podcast. Absolutely brutal. Like I don't do I need a Starlink or something like that for the house so I can so I can record a consistent podcast. But anyways, apologies for my Wi-Fi, my connection. Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
And so we decided to start looking at it. And starting in August, no, I guess it wasn't August, it was probably May or June that we decided to start looking at opening a space, and we were looking at retail spaces. So we ended up opening in November, and it's been a great project for me so far. Our kids are pretty much gone, and so my daughter and I are the co-owners of Swing City Racket Sports, and then my son-in-law, who is my daughter's husband, he and I run the day-to-day business.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I always have a fascination with operations, just because that's kind of what I do in my day-to-day job. I work as a store manager at Sherwin-Williams Paints, but
Yeah.
having like an inventory and worrying about cash flow and that whole thing is super intriguing to me. So I hope to dive into that as well. But
Sure.
for maybe someone who doesn't know, some of what Swing City is, and I didn't know that you guys did tournaments. Do you still put on tournaments for?
Yes.
Okay. What other
Yes.
services and what other things do you do for your location?
So Ryan, my son-in-law, he's also a graphic designer, and he's done all the branding for Swing City. I don't know if you've looked at our website or whatnot, but he's done all the branding. And if you notice in Swing City, it says "Win It" in the middle of it. And so he has done our branding. Trying to think. Yes, we are doing tournaments still. We have one coming up the first weekend in May. I don't know if you have heard of the Pine Tree Apple Classic here
I've
in
heard of
Minnesota.
it, but I have not played in it.
It's a huge fundraiser for Children's Minnesota for cancer research. And so it's usually for high-level players, and like a normal player like me and my husband wouldn't be able to play in it. So Pine Tree and Swing City decided to collaborate, and we're running an NTRP portion of their tournament. So it's like for adult league players.
Okay.
And they can also, like, a portion of their registration fee goes to support Pine Tree, and it goes into their fund for Children's Minnesota. They also have an opportunity to do some peer-to-peer fundraising.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And one way that I've seen, when you put on these events and for your business as well, the marketing pieces, you've gotten some local D1 athletes, some really, really good tennis players like Nolan
Right.
Ranger and
Yeah.
who's the guy from Michigan? I can't remember.
Bjorn Swenson.
Yeah, Bjorn Swenson.
Yep.
And looking through your social media, you'll have them do little different little contests where they're hitting balls into a little bin. But that's how I first got introduced to your brand, was through those guys.
Oh,
So I'm kind
really?
of
Okay.
curious, have you thought that having brand ambassadors like those two, has that paid off for you?
Oh yeah, most definitely. We just brought on our pickleball ambassador too, Zoe Weil.
Okay.
Um, she played D1 tennis as well. She played for University of Washington and University of Minnesota. She decided to dip her feet into pickleball and she has become a pro. So it's awesome. But Bjorn and Nolan, just to backtrack a little bit, they played in our big money tournament last summer, and that's how we got to know them. So Bjorn was our first registrant to join that tournament, and we just got to know them, and they're great guys, and they have done a really great job for us.
What specifically, when you're looking for a brand ambassador, what sort of like qualities or traits are you looking for? Because of course there's a lot of, and I shouldn't say there's a lot of D1 players around the area, but there's a lot of really, really good tennis players, in the area, or in other places that maybe will be able to drive traffic to your location. What
Yep.
specific traits are you kind of looking for in those individuals?
Definitely people who are involved in the community, kind people, people who care about their community, who um, are good athletes, not just good athletes, but great athletes, and they have a pretty far reach within their social media network as well. Um, but yeah, we became friends with them and decided to just bring them on as our brand ambassadors. We saw that they had a pretty decent following on Instagram, so
And do you do any other sort of marketing, besides having the brand ambassadors and of course having, a graphic designer on staff? What other marketing initiatives do you do?
so we just joined the Maple Grove Business Association, and we are going to start doing things through them. That seems to be a pretty good networking opportunity to join that association. I'm trying to think if we mainly social media and our website so far. We're so new that we're just kind of dipping our toes into the marketing aspect of it.
Mhm. And I saw that you offer, and maybe you don't anymore, but like free stringing for your first time. Do you still offer that sort of
Yeah,
service?
when you purchase a racket, you get your stringing service, your first stringing service free. It's
And,
included with your racket purchase.
okay. And
Yeah.
and the racket piece of it, and I know I touched on this a little bit earlier, but for you, how and you said you are one of the people who runs the operations. How do you decide what sort of brands that you're keeping in the store and how many rackets to keep of each of that specific model? Where do you get that sort of information?
Well, it's definitely trial and error as far as that goes, but a lot of our tennis community and our pickleball community will give us input of, we do a lot of online research and research and seeing what people are playing with, what they're interested in, just kind of things like that. And we've learned some pretty good lessons just being open for what, 5 months now,
Mhm.
of how to manage that inventory as well.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned just in your experience so far in your first 5 months?
To start small, keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Is there any
Yep.
specific experience, I guess, that you're referencing?
With one of our brands, we brought in too much inventory and we've been sitting on it just a little bit too long. So maybe just doing a little bit more research on like the volume that we would need to bring in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I've kind of got a unique question. A
Sure.
very, very, it's always debated. But where do you kind of see, pickleball in comparison to tennis? Both feeding your business, but very different sports. Where do you kind of see the dynamic right now?
So it's probably 60% pickleball, 40% tennis.
Okay.
But it's funny because we were just talking about this last week. We'll have days where it's entirely tennis and then days where it's entirely pickleball. But in Maple Grove, pickleball is exploding. There are so many facilities that are open. Maple Grove just opened a new outdoor facility that's pretty awesome. I think it's got what, probably 18 courts. It's got a really nice nice covered bench area, really nice restrooms. So people in Maple Grove tend to be a little bit more pickleball oriented. So I would say it's 60-40 for pickleball.
Yeah. And do you see most of your business coming from like racket sales? Is it merchandise, stringing, or is it just kind of an array of everything?
It's mostly an array of everything. Interestingly, court shoes, people really need court shoes and they like to come in and try them on, see the product that they're getting. I think people are tired of supporting online businesses and big, huge companies, and they want to shop local more so. However, stringing has become a pretty big deal this spring, especially with the boys' high school tennis season starting. It just started maybe a week ago. So we've been stringing a lot. Ryan, my son-in-law, is in the process of becoming a master certified racket technician. So
Okay.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it sounds super extensive. And Bruce Gullickson, I know he's been featured on one of your recent posts as well.
Yep.
But he's like a master certified tennis pro of some sort as well.
Yes.
But the technician side, I've never heard of that before.
It's for stringing and, like, doing buildups on grips and replacing the bumpers and grommets. It's pretty detailed. I'm impressed, and it's a little bit overwhelming, I would guess, for Ryan, but, he's done an awesome job in learning what he needed to learn, and he's picked it up really fast, and he will hopefully be certified here in the next few weeks, so,
There you go.
yeah.
And best of luck to him. Oh, do you have a like a background in business, or did you kind of go into this fresh? I know you mentioned that your husband was in sales. Do
Mhm.
you have a background in the business world?
Nope, not really. I've been a stay-at-home mom for pretty much the past 20 years. So, this I've kind of just been learning a little bit, following along with what my husband has done in his career. We've always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to do our own thing. So, our passion is tennis and pickleball, and combining that just seems to be the right move.
Yeah. And when you are working with, starting a new business and stuff like that, and you have these big companies like Wilson and Head and Prince, these big um companies, how do you go about reaching out to them and getting on their radar? And is it just reaching out to a customer service line and trying to set up a meeting, or how does that all work?
Interesting question. So Wilson actually noticed that we were running these tournaments and we had run into the rep a few times and he said, "Why don't you guys like go to the high school coaches association and see what you can do to drum up some business with for us?" And so we did it and it was successful. And it just kind of like slowly inspired us to start looking at these other reps. Interestingly enough, too, the reps all know each other. So we can, once we got in with one, we could get the contact information for the other. It's really not too hard to find the contact information for the reps either.
Sure. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure, from their perspective, they want people reaching
Mhm.
out to them. So I'm sure they're super accessible. Has there been a specific brand that you've really enjoyed working with, of the people of your vendors?
I'm trying to think. Most of them have all been really fun to get to know. We've gone to dinner with most of them now at this point. They've all visited our stores or our store, I'm sorry. Um, so yeah, we've gotten to know them on a little bit of a personal level, and it's just been fun to cultivate those relationships with them too.
Is there any way, because of course they're trying to compete for your business as well. Is there any,
Mhm.
differentiator that one or another does that you're like, oh wow, this is an interesting play. Like they're coming for us or something like that.
A little bit. I'm trying to think of a specific example, but they've all been super good to work with,
Yeah,
and the bigger companies are a little bit trickier to get in with, just because they vet you very closely. Like they look at every little detail of your life, and um, they just take their time. They really want to be sure that their dealers are going to rep their brand well.
In a smaller retailer, and I hope I'm not doing this, hopefully this isn't offensive in any way,
No.
but a smaller business that we've interviewed, his name is Jogi Mott, and he runs an online tennis store called Cherry Tennis. But
Okay.
anyway, I was wearing Cherry Tennis. But
Mhm.
do you work with any small businesses like an online tennis guy like him?
Not really. Mostly we work with pros who run different programs within the cities, but not really any online. So the suppliers are really, really protective of their brand
Mm,
online. So
true.
it is definitely harder to get into the e-commerce portion.
Yeah, I noticed on your website it says visit us in store. Do you
Mhm.
have a way to buy online right now, or is it all in person?
It's all in person right now. We're working on e-commerce. We're hoping to have e-commerce all set up by the summer.
Is there
So
any other, future plans for your business that, of course the e-commerce is a massive thing where you're going to, get potential traffic from anywhere, really.
right.
Could be in the United States or the globe, but is there any other plans that you have going forward in the next 6 months?
Um, we're still just trying to get into a groove with this brick and mortar store. So, I mean, there's always that hope that we can expand further, but we've got to get into the groove with this first.
Yeah. What are some of, the positives that you've learned from, your, entrepreneurship journey here, the first 6 months of business?
The positives. Well, there's lots of positives. We've gotten to know more people in the community. That's been fun, especially the high school kids. They're fun to get to know too. Um, like teaching them different things about rackets and paddles. That's been fun. I'm trying to think, getting to know the different groups who play pickleball around Maple Grove. Like there's a retirement community where all the people will come in. So I would say the people coming into the store is the most positive thing. It's been fun.
Yeah, and you would get a pretty wide, or I should say diverse group of individuals as well. What do you do you have a specific demographic that, and I know you mentioned the high school kids, that you see most often, an age
Hmm.
range, or is it just random?
So funny thing is that on Mondays, typically like the retirees won't come in on the weekend. They'll come in on Monday mornings when they know everybody else has
Yeah.
gone back to work. And it's usually for pickleball. Some will come in for tennis, but yeah, over the weekend and like after 3 o'clock, we get a lot of the high school students. Um, for league, like when USTA leagues are starting, we get a lot of people coming in to buy balls and get their rackets restrung. I anticipate, oh, so in January, like right after the holidays, a lot of the snowbirds would come in and get their new pickleball paddles to go down to Arizona or Florida. So yeah, it's
Is it
interesting to map that ebb and flow of people.
Yeah. And is there anything um that you in your business does that you want to promote in some sort of way that maybe the people don't understand, or maybe are I don't know exactly the word, maybe like they don't really know it exists out there, that you guys do?
Sure, yeah. So Ryan, my son-in-law, he's our graphic designer. He can design team apparel, and we have relationships with like apparel suppliers. So we can like get teams fixed up with their uniforms, fan swag. We've been doing a lot with Hamlin University. Recently, we have done their fan swag and helped supply some of their balls and stuff like that. So,
I might actually have to hit you up, and because I didn't I'm looking at potentially making like a hat. Me
oh
and
yeah,
my buddy Carter, who also is part of our channel. Um, we wanna we just wanna like go through, a product, and go through Shopify and just kind of like learn, just selling a product online just ourselves, and kind of
sure, yeah.
you know the whole process of starting from start to beginning, and just, do something small, just see
Yeah.
kind of how it's like. But now that we know that you have this service, we'll have to go through you.
Most
Um,
definitely.
what do you see a big opportunity with that sort of part of your business? Because I feel like there's some businesses that only do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Some businesses that specialize in that for sure. So, mostly getting the word out and letting these teams know that this is what we do. We've done a couple of like USTA teams that are going to nationals. We've done their uniforms and their shirts and stuff. Ryan designed one that was the theme of it was purple rain, but they called it the Northern Rain, and rain was REIGN, like rain.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of fun. I think honestly, just getting the word out to these teams, that's the trick, is getting the word out that we do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there a long-term goal and plan that you have, with your store and business, that you hope to eventually it'll become, this or something like that? Do you have any long-term vision?
I would say, yeah, we have a long-term vision to grow it, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
to grow it and expand it. The initial thought of Swing City was that we would plan these tournaments in different cities in like neighboring states, and then the cities compete against each other. So that's kind of like our idea of our growth plan. So that's the genesis of it anyway.
And maybe it, for someone who maybe has never heard, the noise of, a tennis racket hitting strings, or, a pickleball paddle hitting the wiffle ball, whatnot,
Yeah.
or pickleball, I should say.
Yeah, with the
How would you describe to someone who's never heard those? We'll start with the tennis ball. How would you describe
sure.
to that person the noise of a tennis ball?
Huh. The noise of the tennis ball hitting strings is kind of like, I'm trying to think. That's a good question. Now I have to really think about it, because it is very specific, even like based upon the strings that you're using, the racket that you're using. So you know when you hit the sweet spot, because the sound it just sounds right. Kind of like a thunk almost, or not quite a thunk. What is it? I can't even really describe the noise, but it's a good noise.
Yeah, the one word that was coming, and I just had the question down. I didn't even think of a response, personally. But the word that came to my mind was like harmonic, but I don't know if
Harmonic.
that's
Hmm.
necessarily right either.
The
Um,
ball and the strings meeting creates a harmony.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But flipping it to pickleball, do you have
Mhm.
a specific description on someone who's never heard of pickleball before?
Well, the word dink is a big word in pickleball, and I
Mm.
would say it sounds like a dink. So, funny thing is that there are a couple of suppliers that make paddles that are quiet. In fact, one of the paddles is the Diadem Hush,
Mm.
and it messes with your opponent if you're playing with a quieter paddle, because they can't anticipate, they don't hear that sound of the ball hitting the paddle. And so that's a little bit of an advantage, but you can't use it in tournaments. It's not tournament approved. So
Interesting. What?
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you can't, because if you can't use it in tournaments, I guess unless you're just a recreational, player all the time. Because I feel like anyone who's like really really dialed into pickleball, they're like, nah, if you can't do it in a tournament, you can't do it right now. Um,
Yeah, they get a little bit of pushback with that, but there are homeowners associations in like Arizona,
mm,
Texas, Florida, California that require quiet paddles
yeah, that
just
makes
because of the
sense.
residents that live around. Yep.
What a crazy, I mean, yeah, it would be a crazy technology. I mean, probably pretty easy too for someone to develop something that's just quieter and not noisy. And honestly, probably from the beginning, if we're all being honest, just why isn't that the normal,
The
why isn't
norm,
that the normal
exactly.
option?
I know. I know, it's kinda hard when you're on a tennis court next to a bunch of pickleball courts because it's loud, but, you have to call the score a little louder, you have to use hand signals a lot more. But, Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and pickleball paddle technology is changing constantly. I would say, like, every month there's a new idea, a new innovation that's coming out in pickleball paddles.
How do you sort through that? For obviously you're buying inventory of these sorts of things. If there's just constantly new stuff, that's probably hard for you guys to do that. um do they just send you the new stuff and you guys try it
Yeah.
out? How does that work?
Yeah, they start out, they let all their dealers know when they have something new coming out. So as soon as we get any literature on it, we start devouring it and trying to figure out if it's something that we want to bring in or not, or if a certain brand is doing something and another brand is doing it, which brand do we choose or do we bring in both? So the latest thing has been Kevlar, the Kevlar surface. It's a little bit more durable than like the carbon fiber surface. Coming up soon is going to be a new foam core of the pickleball paddle. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And my I guess my last thing, I guess, that I have for you
Okay.
today, and thank you so much for coming on it and doing this. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of
um
course.
and I'm gonna start. This will be the first time, and I want to continue to do this, so
Sure.
hopefully all the listeners and stuff can hold me accountable. But do you have
Okay.
any shout outs, any specific shout outs that you want to give um to anyone, I guess?
You bet. So, one of our biggest supporters has been Lifetime Fitness. We have collaborated with them on the tournament side of it, and they've been great partners with us in that portion. They've been really great to work with. That's a big shout out for me. They've been super supportive of us. So, especially St. Louis Park.
And my shout out is to you. Thank you again so much for coming on and taking time out of your night and doing this. We
Of
appreciate it
course.
so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Isaac. We really appreciate you guys as well.